Welcome back to Warthamite. Welcome aboard the Russian Yak-3T, which is a Russian single-seat, single-engine, rank 3 battle rating 5.0 fighter plane in the premium tech tree branch, and it was the reward for the 2017 Chronicles Marathon. And this plane is fantastic, but I will show its strength and its weaknesses in this video, but it's not really a plane review. Normally I show a little window in the bottom right corner, but due to technical difficulties my microphone doesn't really interact too well with War Thunder, so I can't be in the game and record from the game client and show you everything that there is to know about the plane. But the plane is described very simply as being a mixture between a Yak-9T and a Yak-3P, and it's a very interesting and very well-rounded blend, I'd say. So the Yak-3T has a relatively easy time with bombers, and the 3P with fighters, in my opinion. And the Yak-3T does both at the same time, but not as good in the very specific branch compared to the other two, but not really that much worse. It's a perfect all-rounder, I'd say. It climbs very well, it does very well, it turns very well, and the overall handling is just really great. I think it's very competitive, and if you use your brain and apply certain tactics to it, flying defensively in the right situation, trying to side climb, then you also can achieve victory and a lot of kills and a good income, because this is a full premium plane. So I show you here certain battle scenes to represent you what you can expect from this plane. Overall, I say it's not a rush-in plane like certain Spitfire variants or even certain Japanese planes, but it flies very much in the tradition of Russian planes. The top speed, well, you're redlining at around 685 kilometers an hour at around about 1,000 meters. So it's not as fast as, for example, a Focke-Wulf or a P-51 in a straight line, but it retains that speed very well, I have to say. And then there is the climb rate. You have no web available, and after like 10-11 minutes under 100% throttle you have problems with your oil, so then you have to back down to like 98 or 97% of throttle depending on the circumstances. So, but that's also not uncommon to a lot of planes. Interesting is the armament, of course. You have practically the armament of the Yak-3P, but one of the central mounted 20mm guns firing through the propeller hub is replaced with 37mm. So overall you have a 37mm N37 cannon with 25 rounds and two 20mm B20S cannons with 100 rounds each, and everything is centralized mounted, so around the engine basically, and that is very easy to lead. Even at longer ranges where I normally don't fire, you can achieve hits. I use a 500 meters convergence and I use vertical targeting, which in my opinion is very important. So what about the armor on the plane? Well, you have a 64mm glass plate, bulletproof glass, behind the head of the pilot. So from the front in head-ons you're very vulnerable pilot-wise. The X-ray reveals that you have fuel tanks in the inner wings or the wing roots basically, and the liquid cooling system together with the oil cooling system are below the pilot. Then you also have two spars in each wing. The control cables, well, they are not that easy to disable unlike on certain other planes, and the 37mm N37 cannon fires through the engine, and the two 20mm are mounted above the engine. So yeah, that's practically your standard Russian Yak fighter, so to speak, in terms of where the modules are composed. This plane can really soak up certain surprising amount of damage, and the problem is that the engine loves to die relatively fast. Overall, I think the plane is fantastic. It handles very well, and it's a master of none, but a jack of all trades. However, the armament is really what makes it work. And last word about the armament. You have a 37mm, use it in single fire against bombers, try to snapshot them, don't waste your 20mm ammunition on bombers. Aim for the wing and the wing tips with your 37. One or at least two hits should be enough to take down a bomber reliable. Don't shoot at the fuselage or the rather an elevator system. Go for the wings. For the 20mm, reserve them in short bursts for fighters. You can try to master the head-on. Well, I always, if you can avoid a head-on, try to avoid it. But again, it's a Yak-3. Nobody wants to risk a head-on against a Yak-3P or a 9T, and you have basically the combined firepower. So in a head-on you are very dangerous, and a lot of people avoid the head-on in your play when they go head-on against you, so then they try to roll out of the way. That gives you then the opportunity to either escape, or if you have the energy advantage, to pull up and make a loop back on their 6. That's what I usually do. And that's basically a very adequate description of the Yak-3T. So is this plane worth it? I say it's a damn good plane overall, and I think you actually can work in terms of turn fighting against dedicated boom and zoomers like Focke-Wulfs and P-51s, and you can then try to boom and zoom planes like Spitfires and a lot of the Japanese planes. This plane is also very nice in terms of stall fighting. I found out with the flaps. You have no combat flaps basically, you just have the landing flaps, and yeah, you can work very well with them if you know how to deal with them before they rip off at too high speeds. Overall, again, I have to say that the plane has no dedicated weakness. It has overall enough performance to deal with any other opponent if you are a, let's say, decent pilot. Obviously a bad pilot can't make the best plane work, and a very good pilot might make the very worst plane work in certain situations. But this plane is rather forgiving. You can get out of a lot of troublesome situations either by brute force, but that's also rolling with the dice, but the dice is a little bit in your favor. Yeah, and well, let's watch the footage. So before I go to the last battle that I want to show you, let's just compare the armament, for example, to the MiG-9. The MiG-9 has also a 37mm cannon and also two 23mm cannons. However, the 23mm cannons do not really the damage that, according to their caliber, you expect. Also, they have a much lower muzzle velocity, and the muzzle velocity falls off. So then they're also on the bottom of the fuselage, so you have to awkwardly aim. With those guns, it's very straightforward on the Yak-3T. And you could see here in the background how I trolled those Spitfires and how I am evading. One thing that I have to keep in mind, while you have a relatively low top speed, you have to keep in mind that at your top speed, a lot of planes go also into very sluggish handling. And then I have to just simply tell you about the value of teamwork. This plane, played with teamwork, is, well, in a nutshell, it's like the P-51, but ineffective. So you get more results like with the P-51. It's much easier and much more straightforward in the way that you engage your enemies. So also energy fighting and also boom and zooming. I mean, a lot of planes, especially German Focke-Wulfs and B-49s, can go way above 700. But that doesn't mean that they can achieve that easily and that they can do it for long and that they're very dangerous or effective if you know your surrounding. So a little bit of evasive action and you're out of the danger zone. That's how it usually works. I mean, it might be a great plane to have in simulator where, you know, the view is completely different like in realistic, but at the end of the day, the Yak-3T is a plane that I would use for grinding. It's fun, it's effective, it's forgiving, it's not completely overpowered, it has its limitations, you still have to know your enemy, but you can make it work. Overall, the handling is very, very nice and effective, and again, forgiving. I cannot stress it enough how much of a difference it makes. So overall, the plane's performance is a little bit below of that of the Yak-3P in terms of acceleration and handling and yeah, energy retention overall. But that's to be expected with one 20mm being replaced by a 37mm cannon. You have to sacrifice a little bit for it, I guess. I'm not quite sure if the Yak-3T is the exact improvement of the Yak-3P or just the Yak-3, but you know, with the placement of the two additional 20mm guns, I suspect it. I'm quite sure that many of you can point this out in the comment section. So in this battle here, we are against Japan. And this battle is not the most awesome one in terms of getting kills, but it shows off a lot of the very good aspect of this plane against the hardcore turn fighters, the Japanese. And if you can compete with the Japanese, it just shows you if you have a good plane or a plane that is average. Let's put it that way. Let's be very polite here. And be warned, I have to do a little bit of editing because the battle took nearly 30 to 40 minutes. So let's go into the battle itself. And this is now where I have a J2M on my tail and I use my combat flaps, or rather landing flaps in this case, to stall fight him. However, there were certain kind of connection issues on his side, I guess. You can see he has not even contrails on the wingtips. I guess they are then not called contrails, but you get the point. One hit and I get a hit and I want to finish him off, but before I could open fire, he just disappears and gives me the kill. So I guess he disconnected. I doubt it was on my end with a ping of 25. My internet is still kind of awkward at the moment. I have a very good ping and I rarely get a packet loss above 4%, but sometimes I have real lag spikes and that is highly annoying. Yeah, so then we also have this Ki-61 and you can see I do energy fight him and another J2M. Just pull up and go into a loop, and that's all that I need to make. I switch target to the J2M as he simply presents the better target, and he does no evasive actions up until the point that he really can't escape anymore, and a 37mm hits home. And it's always very nice when those guns hit home and do the work. And yes, at the moment, at the current state of the patch, I guess the overwhelming majority of kind of shells work. At least the planes that I fly them on. Yes, you don't get one-shots all the time, but that's, you know, not the meta that we are currently in. I mean, you also can talk about times when 50 cals one-shotted BF-109s at 2.5 kilometers from B-17 turrets, even before the TU2 or the TU4 time. And then this A6M5 actually rolled out of the way of the head-on. Smart decision by the A6M5 pilot. The problem for him, I go into kind of, yeah, again, boom and zooming energy fighting. I did not really turn with him. Turning with a 0, well, you have to be in another 0 in an advantage to pull that off, I guess, but you get the point. So I'm energy fighting him, and he cannot really bring his nose to fire upon me. And again, we have the same case that the 37 hits home for my third kill. And I'm going after this Ki-61 as well. And you can see I have not the highest top speed. I'm just below 600. But I can dominate this Ki-61 because I have the initial energy advantage. And to not give it up is so much easier in this plane than, for example, a plane that is not such a good turn fighter, for example, as the P-51s. Funnily enough, this A6M5 has lost one wing by a 37mm hit, but he will make it back to the airfield and eventually repair. So much for Japanese kind of skill, if you can say it. So, and now another one is begging for a kill in chat. And, you know, I have enough kills with this plane on an average battle. I have to say, 3 kills per match are not uncommon, okay? So, there's that. And now I try something else. I tell him, okay, I will do fake attacks. And I also want to test out how long I can kind of sustain in a fight against Japanese planes without killing them, by just holding my dominant position. The A7 seems not to be very interested in fighting, so either he has critical engine damage, he's low on fuel, and low on ammunition, which would explain his actions. This Ki-61 on the other hand, well, he always turns away too sharply, and I just boom through to give my allies time to come close to me. Now why is that? Well, I want to put myself between the Japanese fighters and their airfield, to which they actually want to retreat. Now I do some long range shots, and immediately they turn. And they turn not just a little bit to evade the shots, you know, very slight adjustments with the rudder and elevator. No. They go for the full turn. And this A6M5 came out of nowhere and he's shooting me. And one funny thing is here that I actually can outrun the Zero. But I'm going into a long turn to go back. He's hooked. So he can easily turn into me and has therefore a shorter distance towards me. But I'm faster, and that implies for him, if he's an unexperienced pilot, that he's catching up or at least keeping the distance. And that keeps him hooked. So he's tunnel visioning. He wants to actually try to keep up. Eventually he will catch me. At least that is what I want to make him think. It's a very small dance at the edge of a blade, I have to say, and it doesn't work with any plane. But the Zero eventually breaks off and I go into a zoom climb. Also, I'm reducing my throttle to cool down the oil and the water in my engines. Now the time limit is actually overdone, and yeah, I think to show those actions and to talk you through is important. This is specifically for the Yak-3T, but it also could be used in so many other planes that have kind of the same playstyle. And you also have to do this with planes that you that you know very well, and when you have teammates around. So actually it paid off. One of my teammates had the kill. This is the comradeship between players on your own team. If you already have 3 kills, I mean, it's always nice to have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kills to be the absolute pro. But I personally, and this is just for me, I don't need the extra high kill scores. Yes, it's very nice to show off, especially in tanks, but for planes, very often you're very low on ammunition, you cannot guarantee the kill, but you just want to end the match quickly. And some people go for a ram. I would not recommend it unless you are in an Arado B series, but you know, you can bait enemies into a turn fight with you and then give teammates that are currently repairing, rearming, refueling the time to re-engage the enemy and then to shoot them down. That cuts the battle time immensely by several minutes. That also reduces the frustration that the enemy escapes to the airfield, repairs, rearms, refuels, and then just circles over the airfield, and you can't engage him because of the AAA. And there is no real cure for AAA because it randomly hits you and sets your engine under damage, and now I have an oil leak and a fuel leak and so on. So at this point I cut out 7 minutes of RTB and reclimbing to 5,000 meters, also circling for a while and just searching for the 2 remaining enemies. And they do a very smart move. They're sticking together against me. I'm the last player on my team. And now I actually don't go for the A7, as it would bait me into an attack run from the Key 61. So I focus the Key 61, and he is also the less maneuverable plane, so much easier to kill for my 4th kill. And now the A7M2 is behind me, but you can see I zoom through with over 560 kilometers an hour, going to the climb, and just zoom through. Fantastic energy retention on this plane. It's under those speed circumstances, it feels like a jet, I have to say. And even at that altitude, they just run. I mean, there is the myth about Russian planes not performing at high altitude. Well, it depends on your definition. I guess at 8,000 meters they really drop, but fights within War Thunder rarely take place at that altitude. So at this moment I thought to myself, well, let's turn back and then accelerate and then do the loop again against an A7M. Sounds crazy, right? Yeah, I tried it, but here is the problem. The turn took too long and I have not accelerated fast enough. I put a few 20mm rounds into him, but not enough to actually do a lot of damage to him. And now I go into the loop using the landing flaps, but you know, this is an A7M2. If it would be the A7M1, I'd very likely be dead already, because premium versus premium, but this is the tech tree version, so I can escape. So I tried to stall fight with him again, like with the J2M2 in the beginning, but I quickly realized this is a gamble that I'm very likely to use. It was around about now that I realized it, and then I just did a very stupid thing. I reversed. I went into kind of the scissoring fight, and this is where the A7M2 just shows that he is indeed a Japanese plane. And yeah, you can see I would not have done this maneuver under normal circumstances, and there are the first hits, and my engine is damaged again. There you can feel the lack of armor, and I guess my pilot was saved here by the bulletproof glass, and I'm diving away. So this is what I have talked about in the beginning. Now I try to achieve my top speed ASAP and want to orientate myself towards my airfield, because at this moment I have no hope of being able to reverse it. I think the A7 is faster in top speed, it's more maneuverable. To a certain degree it has also more efficient ammunition against fighters. If you want to talk about this, I think Japanese 20mm cannons are fantastic if you hit with them. And so I just do those evasive maneuvers with a negative elevator, a little bit of rudder, observing my enemy, and just try to always roll a little bit out of the way, orientate myself towards the airfield, do a little bit of adjustments, and despite the decent damage on the left wing where I have a big hole, I still have very, very nice handling characteristics even at this speed. And you can see I always try to stay below 650 kilometers an hour, and because of his corrections and rolling and so on, he really can't keep up or can't catch me quite like he would like to do. And now the AAA is opening up on the airfield. This is not the way that I actually wanted to end it. It was clearly my fighting fault, but also it was his fault to actually go into the AAA defensive fire. And yeah, he got punished with a kill. And that actually then secured me the victory with 4 kills, carrying the match. Let's have a quick look at the post-battle results. And here we have 4 kills, 1 critical hit, and numerous other little achievements for 115,000 silver lines and nearly 10,000 research points. But I'm currently not researching anything, and this is just with a premium account with this premium plane without any boosters being applied on my side. So that is the Yak-3T. I think it is very nice to have. It is more than just a collector's item because it's actually very useful. In multiple roles you have to approach different situations with different tactics, but the plane itself will not let you down if you are a decent pilot, which cannot be said about certain other planes that you might think, you know, would perform in those roles even better, such as P-51s or Focke-Wulfs, which can perform better, granted, but just under very specialized and rare situations. Anyways, that's it for me, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other in the skies of War Thunder.